Welcome back to the channel, guys. You're on S Motorsports. Today, we're going to be working on the LQ4 in the Trans Am. That's right, guys, we have an S Motorsports merch store set up, ready to go for your orders. We have different specific men's apparel, couple different t-shirt designs that have different S Motorsports logos, as well as hoodies, crew necks, and then of course we have some accessories or hats in different trucker hats, Carhartt, and then a couple different beanie designs with the S Motorsports logo. So make sure to pick you up some cool merch and support the channel. The link will be in the description. Thanks, guys, and now back to regular scheduled programming. Alright, guys, so today I'm just out in the garage. I'm doing a bunch of random stuff, basically tidying up things on the engine. I'm going to be working on the transmission crossmember mount for the torque on them. I want to show you what I got there. I'm going to be hopefully maybe bolting up the headers because they're not fully bolted in with gaskets. The intake manifold, I got a bunch of sensors, or the oil pressure sensors and stuff to put on the back of the block. So I got a bunch of fittings to make that work. So a bunch of random things. And I didn't want to make specific videos about, each of these things, that would be boring, but I did want to kind of show you the progress. So there's going to be probably quite a bit of time lapse in this video. Just me working and stuff, showing you what I'm doing, and then if there's something important, I'll stop, kind of talk about it, and then keep going from there. But yeah, let's dive in. The main thing is the transmission crossmember with the torque arm mount, as that's kind of a big deal. Alright, guys, so the main thing that I need to get done basically today is the transmission crossmember mount. This is previously what I had on the car, which was a crossmember from Hawks. That was for the 4L60 or 700R4. I made that, it worked with the 700R4 as it didn't quite line up, but it was close enough to make work. And so there's not too many great options for the 4L80 in a third gen. There is for the fourth gen, but for the third gen, there's really not that many great options. Hawks does have a crossmember, which is basically this piece you see here. Comes down, it mounts and locates the 4L80, and then this part. But obviously with the third gen and even the fourth gen, the big thing is the torque arm. You need a spot to mount that, and you can have a tunnel mount, or there's more options for the fourth gen, but for the third gen there's really not, besides like the Holley mount, which if you add that up, the mount's like $400 some, plus an adapter bracket which kind of mounts it back off of it, which is kind of dumb. And so it'd be close to $500 to do that setup. This was way less expensive. So I bought the Hawks 4L80 transmission mount, and then I bought a Holley, I don't know, it's basically a custom bracket. It was this piece you see here, and then it had a little angle coming off of it that you could mount it, or custom fab. So basically I cut that portion of the bracket off. I'll put the link for this bracket in the description as well, but basically it had a little 90-degree here. I cut that off, I bolted this up to the torque arm, and then when it was in the car to test where it needed to go, this was bolted up to the torque arm. I basically just pulled the torque arm down and it lined up exactly where it needed to go. So then I booger welded this in and added a little support, to keep it from going left to right. Obviously the forces are basically up and down in this. Strengthened it up a little bit. It's got quite a bit of weld on there now, so I don't think it's going anywhere. It feels pretty strong. So this is the main part we're gonna get installed today, and then once we get the back of the transmission set up, then I can measure for driveshaft. I can get going on some of the stuff on the top of the engine, as I didn't want to put that stuff in before the engine was going down. If I had to lower it, it would broke some sensors on the firewall and stuff. So I was waiting to do all that stuff. So definitely want to get this in, but I'll put you on time lapse and we'll have at her. Alright guys, I wanted to show you before I throw the Crossmember in, I did make some spacers to space the mount down to lift the transmission up in the car, up in the tunnel, to help driveline angles. As I'm measuring that, as I'm doing that, I'm trying to get it as low as possible, kind of around that 3-degree mark of engine power angle, because that's going to help my drive shaft angles, because the car is lowered, so that kind of hurts it. So trying to get as close to 3 as possible, and this is going to help out. This is going to get us fairly close to 3 degrees of power angle. So let's get this bolted in. And I forgot to mention, I also went and bought some really expensive bolts from the hardware store. 4 bolts for $18. Yikes. Alright guys, we're back. It's been a few days. As you can tell, I did some work off camera, which I know you're not supposed to do, but it was pretty boring to watch, I'm sure. But I'll tell you what I did. So first off is I installed my wiring harness, which I'll show you what I picked up. It is just an Amazon wiring harness that's basically a copycat of PSI wiring harness. It seems to work pretty good. I don't have everything connected yet, but I got kind of the major things. I still have to connect up my map sensor. I do have to connect up my map sensor. As you can see, I'm going to be running the LS3, LS7 map sensor, and I have a mock-up air intake installed. This is not the final one. I'll do a full video on making that, as I have some more parts as well. But as you can see, I grabbed the filter off of the Camaro, which actually is the same exact size. I'm gonna run this one and replace the Camaro with the oil filter that I did in a previous video where I compared the two. And if you haven't seen that, check that video out. That one was a pretty fun one. Yeah, I mean, it's coming together. I got a bunch of wiring put in, you know, battery cables and such. I did have a little mishap with my Motion Raceworks throttle cable. I mean, it's my fault, but it was kind of goofy. I put it in there, I had it sitting in there, and then I grabbed a wrench. There's wrench flats on it, and tightened it, and I honestly don't think I tightened it that much, and whoop, it snapped right off. And looking at it, there was barely any material there, but I did call Motion Raceworks, and they are going to send me out a new end fitting here, as it is serviceable. So thank you, Motion Raceworks, for that. I appreciate that, even though it was basically my fault. But what he told me is, when you're installing that, basically put it hand tight and just put a little dab of Loctite on there, which is what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to use wrench, or if I do, I'm just gonna, you know, tweak it a little bit. So yeah, we got everything going pretty good, but today I'm going to start working on, I want to install, or basically get my drive shaft fitted out. So I have the yoke end for the 4L80. Doing some measurements, I was expecting to have to redo this drive shaft or get it shortened, but it looks like it should work. With 1 inch of pullout, it's basically a 1/4 inch too long. So if I do a 3/4 inch pullout, which is still kind of in that acceptable range, if you can get it installed past the yoke, we're gonna try it anyways. And if it doesn't work, then I'll have it sent off to get a 1/4 inch shortened, but that feels really pointless. But as 3/4 of an inch of travel should be plenty for the drive shaft, as your rear axle isn't going to move 3/4 of an inch. It's more or less to get it installed. So yeah, let's get this broken apart, and then we're going to use my new Spicer conversion joint to go from a 350 on the 4L80 yoke to the 3R U-joint on my current drive shaft. So let's start working with the press. All right, guys, we got the drive shaft all installed, or the U-joint installed into the drive shaft. So let's get it installed and see if it actually fits. A little angle. See if this works. Wow. This will go in because I've tried this. Well, I got it installed. If I rotate, kind of slide it up in and then rotate it, then it fits. So guys, I'm picking up where we left off in the last clips. That now I'm gonna be working on the fuel system for the Trans Am. I wanna get that going, as that's one of the next big hurdles. So I'll turn you around and show you what I got for the fuel system. As you can see, we have the goodie table. We have lots of stuff. I also have a mess going on over here and over there, so don't mind that. But we got a fuel filter, fuel pressure regulator, a bunch of Teflon line as well, the relay wiring that I have to do for the fuel pump, and then a bunch of different fittings, and then a mount and a bunch of clips and stuff to hold the lines underneath the car. And then also one thing I am gonna just put on right away are these basically gaskets for the AN lines. It seems like usually you have a few that leak. This is just kind of a good sealer to seal those AN lines. I've had really good luck with that on the Camaro as well when I had a slight fuel leak. When I did my E85 kit, put this on, took care of it. So I'm just gonna end up putting those on right away. So the first thing that I wanna do is get this fuel pressure regulator mounted. I thought I had a plug, but I can't find it because I am only gonna use 2 of these ports, one in, one out. The system that I am running is a return style system. Instead of just like the normal Corvette fuel pressure regulator that you can get that just has one line coming to the engine, I'm gonna actually be running a return style. And the reason I'm doing that is to keep the fuel nice and cool and to make sure that I have good flow. It also helps cool the fuel pump as you're just flowing fuel through it all the time. And it kind of negates any fuel temperature issues. Maybe, you know, obviously not vapor lock is not really a common thing in fuel injected engines, but it just helps. Cool fuel makes power. So that's why I'm running the return style system. And I am gonna need to be connecting up a vacuum line to the fuel pressure regulator as well before we start it up, as the map that I have loaded in the engine is a referenced fuel map. So that takes into account the engine vacuum. All right, guys, so if we go over in detail exactly what I got, this is an Earls Holley, kind of the same thing, fuel filter, 8AN, as I'm running 8AN line from the tank up to the fuel rails. This is a 10 micron filter. Yep, 10 micron. Yes, 10 micron. Then a bunch of different adapters and fittings. Some of these are probably for my transmission lines that I have to do as well for the cooler, but this is just kind of my assortment that I have to work with. So a bunch of -6 and -8 90s, a couple 45s, that sort of thing. So, and then I just have, this is I think just a cheap Amazon, you know, fuel filter mount. We're gonna get that mounted right away before we run fuel lines. Obviously I wanna get this mounted right away. And then I am using this Vibrant braided fuel line, which is Teflon on the inside, which is E85 compatible. So I wanted to run that. I have a section of 8AN and then 6AN 20 feet long, and then I have a little bit left over that I can hopefully use of 8AN from the Camaro. and then obviously the wiring that we need to run. I just need to tap into the ECU to get the on and off signals, and then route that. That'll be a little project as well. So I just want to get started on this and get things going, as this is a big task for me. And then this is from the old fuel tank, just for the sensor signal and ground, which we'll get that plugged in as well. So, all right, I'm gonna set you up and we're gonna have at her and see how much progress we can make today. So the first step is, where are we gonna mount this fuel pressure regulator? I think this is gonna be a nice spot for me. I can mount it right here. I can get some screws in on the backside or bolts. Nice out of the way. I know you're not supposed to mount it to the firewall if this is a NHRA legal, but obviously I'm not really racing this car, so not too concerned about that. I'm going to get the fittings installed and kind of the connectors that I think I'm gonna end up using to make sure that I have clearance, as this is gonna be mounted like this. I think I'll hopefully be able to just come in from, I'm gonna start over on that fuel rail, dive under the brake booster, come up. So maybe like a 90 would work good. Maybe if I mount it over a little bit over this way, 90 would work probably perfect to miss this connector. And then the return is actually through the bottom, so I gotta make sure I have clearance there. And then this will just get a plug on this side, which I thought I had, but I can't find, so I probably gotta order one of those. I'll mark, drill the holes, get this mounted, as that's step one. All right, I marked the spots. I'm gonna kind of center punch them and then drill them out. And these feel like they are, I'll be able to get a bolt behind it. I'm gonna put an M6 hardware. It looks like I can do a 90 here and a 45 out, which I am missing the 6-inch and outlet as well. So I'm missing a couple things. So that's why you gotta get going on it, so you can figure out what you're all missing. Oh boy, that really center punches it. Yeah, that should work. All right, I got the fuel pressure regulator holes drilled. We got a couple bolts in there, which you got to pre-install before you put this bracket on. Now I'm just gonna slide it through. I'm missing this fitting as well as this fitting. So I'll put those on after I should have access. If not, I'll pop it out, but should mount pretty good, and then somehow snake these in. Not even too bad. Gotta be flexible. This back one might be tight. No, wow. It's good to have long arms. Perfect. Yeah, this is gonna, oh yeah, look at that. And I did level it too, if you're wondering. So yeah, this will work good. My plan, I could come straight over here, but just in the name of hiding it, I'm gonna do a 90 and then bring it over, because that's actually gonna be coming from this fitting. So coming from the tank, it's gonna come up, all my lines are gonna be running here. Gonna come up, it's gonna go to this one, is what I wanna do. It's gonna run over, around from here. It's gonna go back under, up to here, the regulator, and then it'll come down out at a 45 and go back to the tank. So now that we got the fuel pressure regulator mounted, it's good enough for now. Like I said, I'm missing a couple fittings that I have to order, but I got the fuel pump, which is the Earls fuel filter. Like I said, this is a 10 micron. I got it mounted with my cheap clamp. I ended up having to just use a different piece of fuel tank rubber strap, otherwise it was too thick to clamp, not a big deal. I put 8 AN fittings in there, as like I said, we're running 8 AN all the way from the tank to the fuel rail. And then I just marked it with an arrow to make sure that I know which direction the flow is as I'm kind of covering that up. So let's head under the car and see where this can mount. All right guys, we are under the car. It's kind of hard to see, but this is the back surface of the seat. Let's go this way. I think I'm gonna mount it like right there. I'm gonna mark it. which allows me to kind of dive down at an angle from the tank, come out of the fitting there, then kind of tie in with this brake line. I'll tie them together. It can kind of come around here, I can tie it there, and then go forward on the car. I think that'll work good. So I'm gonna mark this, and hopefully my drill fits up there to drill that out, and I can just bolt and nut it through the back seat area. Whoops. All right, guys, so I have a little bit left of my 8 inline from the Camaro project, flex fuel. And so since I got the fuel filter mounted, I'm gonna put one end as a straight because that's gonna be going into the filter. The other end will be a straight too, but I'll get it mated up first and then cut it to length. So this came from a Vibrant. You can see it, you probably can't see, but there is crap in that line. So I'm gonna clean that out first just to get it out and then put the end on. All right, this is a slow process, but I got one hose made. Like I said, I tightened it on the filter and then measured the length, what I needed to connect to the pump outlet. It's a very short piece of hose, but this is what I needed. And next we'll go from the filter all the way up to the fuel rail. All right, so I got the Dash 8 fuel line, ran up from the filter all the way up into the engine compartment. I marked where it lands on the fitting over here, and then now I'm just masking this off. As I think I did a test, and you know, there's how many different ways you can cut you know, the braided line. I don't have a cutter, plus it kind of squishes the Teflon a little bit, so I tried again the cutoff wheel, and that seems to give it the cleanest cut. Yes, you got to clean it out, but I was cleaning it out anyways with the Sawzall and stuff, so I think that's going to give me the cleanest cut, and then I'll just have to spray it out with the hose and some cleaner as well, and I can do that while it's in the car. So now I'm going to cut it with the cutoff wheel. A nice clean cut, and then I can clean this up with a little tin snip. Plus I have tape to help it from not fraying. All right, guys, we are back. I'm gonna end this video. It's been a few days, but I got the rest of the fuel system installed. I got all of the lines finalized. It's kind of hard to see. We got the line diving in underneath the booster, and then they're all gonna wrap around the wiper motor here, but all the lines are connected. As you can see, I am filling my transmission. And then if we move to the back of the car, we got all of the lines attached up here. And I did actually, getting a little ahead of myself, but this is also a plug to stay tuned. I did cycle the fuel pump.
You what? Grab a tissue and get over it.
and set the pressure for the pump. So maybe you guys can let me know in the comments, but this Aeromotive fuel pump, so when I run it, when I cycle the fuel pump and run it, even if I click it on with the computer, because I did hook up the computer and the PCM, it runs right at 60 PSI or 59, what I set it at. But then when I shut the key off, it does dip down pretty quickly to 30. And then this has been holding, now dropping from 30 to 20 here in probably 2 hours or something. Like it's taken a while to go down. So it does hold some pressure, but not max full pressure. I don't know if that's normal or not, but let me know in the comments, guys, if you do know. All right, guys, stay tuned. We got the fuel system all done. It is ready to go. I am finalizing a few transmission cooler lines, and then we are gonna do the first start on the LQ4. So the next video is gonna be just that. So stay tuned and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.